The emperor arranged a marriage between me and the crown prince, only to have it cruelly rejected by him. The crown prince declared he refused to marry the sickly girl, for he already had someone he loved. In the early spring of March, he and the empress went to Mount Shangqing to pray for blessings. On their way back to the city, they encountered bandits and were rescued by a masked woman in red. That was the savior of the sun and the empress. Upon meeting at Mount Shangqing, this sun and the heroine locked eyes for eternity. This life, I will marry none but her. I felt a flutter of embarrassment. The red-clad heroine he spoke of was none other than me. Just as I prepared to confess my identity to the crown prince, he emerged from behind a screen, slowly leading a woman by the hand. "Your Majesty, I beg you to grant this marriage." The woman wore a crimson gown, her eyes crinkling with a smile. "I merely offered a small favor. How could I possibly deserve the crown prince's favor?" I stood frozen in place. This red-clad woman's attire felt eerily familiar. Red robes, white shoes, and bells dangling at her waist. Except for the absence of the demon mask, this outfit was nearly identical to the one I wore when we eradicated the bandits on Mount Shangqing. Had not Miss Xian intervened that day, my mother and I would have faced grave peril. The crown prince held Murong Xian's hand, his gaze filled with affection. Murong Xian replied solemnly, "The bandits of Shangqing Mountain were a nest of snakes and rats. I had long intended to wipe them out entirely. Saving the crown prince and empress was truly a coincidence." With just a few words, Murong Xian claimed all the credit for crushing the bandits. Miss Murong Xian truly is a heroine among women. I suddenly clapped my hands in admiration. Murong Xian lifted her chest proudly, tilting her head up to look at me with satisfaction. I am no delicate flower confined to the inner chambers of noble families. I was born to soar like an eagle through the skies. Her tone carried a hint of disdain. "I wonder where the soldiers who accompanied you in that campaign are now? Might I witness their valor today? Going alone, I couldn't possibly take on bandits single-handedly. That day, Father gave me 10 elite warriors. They were all handpicked by Father, formidable fighters capable of taking on 3 opponents each." Murong Xian shot me a wary glance. Those were the guards escorting me to the capital. After ensuring my safe arrival, they naturally returned to report to my father. I offered a faint smile, choosing not to press further. The crown prince, however, rushed to defend Murong Xian. "Jiang Tan, are you questioning Xian?" That day, though the red-clad heroine wore a mask, her figure is etched deep into my heart. I could recognize her at a glance. "Xian isn't the red-robed heroine, could it be you? You've been frail since childhood, sheltered in your boudoir. You couldn't even lift a sword, let alone slay 10 bandits. As crown prince, I must marry a woman of courage and wisdom, not a sickly weakling who only knows how to weep." The crown prince's defense only made Murong Xian more composed and triumphant. She was convinced my doubts about her identity stemmed from jealousy. Before she could mock me, I turned and knelt before the emperor. "Your Majesty, I request you grant them marriage." The emperor pondered for a long moment before asking me, "You have no regrets?" The emperor meant, am I not regretful that the crown prince's consort has fallen into another's hands? I answered, "I have no regrets." As the daughter of the court's general, I had been groomed since childhood to be the crown prince's consort. The emperor held my father in high esteem, and the empress and my mother were close friends. Everyone placed great hopes in me, the position of crown prince's consort was mine by right. Yet today, a red-clad heroine emerged. She happened to have crushed the mountain bandits, resolving a major crisis for the court. She also saved the crown prince and the empress, a debt the emperor must repay. I knew the emperor had prepared countless rewards for Murong Xian. After granting the marriage contract between the crown prince and me, he would bestow honors upon her. But the crown prince's outburst left the emperor torn. The emperor is enlightened, he knows forced unions bear no sweet fruit. In the end, he relented and granted the marriage between the crown prince and Murongxian. Overjoyed, the crown prince embraced Murongxian and vowed to her, "Xian, become my wife. I will protect you for the rest of my life." Words like these, the crown prince had never spoken to me. I knew long ago that the crown prince disliked me. When I was young, I followed him around, calling him crown prince brother constantly. He'd turn around and kick me flat on the ground. "I hate you. You look like you won't live long." I refused to marry a short-lived ghost. Later, as I grew up, the crown prince phrased it more delicately. "Jiang Tan, your constitution is frail. You'll struggle to bear children. This position as crown princess may not last long." I knew the crown prince didn't dislike me. He merely resented that his wife had already been chosen for him. He merely hated that he had no power to choose. But born into royalty, how could one ever have everything one desires? I kept to my duties, mastering music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, poetry and needlework. I excelled in all. When it came to the talents of the capital's noble ladies, none could match me. I exerted every effort to become the perfect crown princess. The crown prince witnessed it all, yet only responded with a cold snort. Merely grandstanding, scheming, and plotting to win my favor. Stepping outside the hall, gentle sunlight bathed my form. My body felt light, and warmth filled my heart. Not far away, I spotted a familiar figure. "Your Majesty." I curtsied to the Empress. The Empress stepped forward, familiarly taking my hand and placing it in hers. "I've heard about the arranged marriage. Do you harbor resentment?" The Emperor asked if I regretted it. The Empress asked if I felt resentment. "I can see it. Since returning from Mount Shangqing, Xixing has drawn countless portraits of you in his study. He truly has feelings for you." I shook my head. The crown prince loves the crimson-robed heroine, not me. At the mention of Murongxian, a flicker of shrewdness passed through the Empress's eyes. "I recognized you the moment I saw you that day. I told Xixing, but he didn't believe me. Then, out of nowhere, this Murongxian appeared, claiming your achievements as her own. Who knows what she's scheming?" At that moment, the Empress had been standing behind the screen. When Murongxian admitted she was the red-robed heroine, the Empress nearly burst out to tear away her disguise. But she managed to restrain herself. "Now, with this betrothal agreement placing her under your watchful eye, she won't be able to stir up much trouble." I walked alongside the Empress along the gravel path, trying to comfort her. Besides, the crown prince and I never truly loved each other. Being freed from this engagement is actually a blessing for me. The Empress ruffled my hair and sighed. "Tanner has grown up." Back at the manor, my father practiced sword play. The moment I entered, a long blade whistled toward me, plunging into the ground before me. My expression unchanged, I drew the sword, dragging it along the floor to spark a trail of sparks. Without a word, my father and I began sparring. After a dozen exchanges, I raised my hands. "Enough, enough. That's all for today." Father tore the sweat-soaked handkerchief from his shoulder and tossed it to me. "So that crown prince brat doesn't want you anymore?" I pinched the handkerchief in disgust, flicked it, then folded it neatly into a square before wiping the thin sheen of sweat from my forehead. "Father, you're mistaken. It's your daughter who doesn't want him." "What a blind fool. He's been given an opportunity but refuses to take it." My father hoisted his long sword onto his shoulder, ready to storm the palace and demand justice for me. "Father!" I clung desperately to his thigh. I recounted everything that had happened in the palace today, word for word. "What's wrong with you? How could you be so spineless? You just handed over a well-earned merit to someone else." After hearing my story, my father was so furious he whipped me with his whip. My father had long planned the campaign to purge bandits from Mount Shangqing. That day, he should have led the expedition himself. I happened to learn of it and demanded 10 men from him, declaring I would become a heroine, punishing the strong and aiding the weak. Frail since childhood, I was forced by my father to train in martial arts. Even in the depths of winter, I had to stand in horse stance for 5 hours in the courtyard, braving the snow. With prolonged training, my health gradually improved. Eventually, I could wield swords and spar with my father on equal terms. Though not my first battle, the Shangqing Mountain campaign cemented my reputation. Villagers throughout the region knew of a red-clad heroine who saved them. News reached the capital, and the fame of the red-clothed heroine spread far and wide. No! I can't stand it! That woman stole your glory. I'll chop her to pieces. And that crown prince, if his eyes are useless, I'll gouge them out and feed them to the dogs. I clung to my father, desperately signaling to the guards in the mansion. I urged them to lock the gates tight, making sure my father couldn't escape. Father! What's stolen can never truly be yours. I refuse to believe Murongxian can hide this forever. Besides, the crown prince lacks virtue. Over the years, other princes have shone brightly, while his talents remain unremarkable. His repeated mistakes have nearly exhausted the emperor's patience. Without the Jiang family's support, his position as crown prince is far from secure. I laid bare my inner calculations to my father. My nature is detached, appearing indifferent to worldly strife, yet I harbor grudges like no other. The crown prince's contempt, the humiliations he heaped upon me since childhood, I've etched every one into my memory. Retribution is inevitable, it merely awaits its hour. I possess the utmost patience and excel at waiting. As for Murongxian, she has boldly taken what is mine today. One day, I would make her kneel and return them to me. I patiently awaited my chance, never expecting it to come so swiftly. At the palace banquet, the crown prince and Murongxian were all lovey-dovey, dripping with affection. Miss Shangguan, one of the crown prince's admirers, was displeased. She slammed her hand on the table and addressed the emperor. I've heard Sister Murong is the red-robed heroine who vanquished the mountain bandits. Her skills must be extraordinary. Might we ladies of the court witness them today? It would be quite an eye-opener. Before the emperor could respond, Murongxian took the bait. She interpreted Miss Shangguan's words as a challenge. Smashing her wine cup, she looked down haughtily and declared, "Come. Step forward and spar with me." Miss Shangguan, lacking martial arts skills, naturally dared not accept. Her gaze swept across the room, settling on me as I sipped tea leisurely. Sister Jiang Tan, as the daughter of a general, must have inherited his valor. Why not have Sister Jiang Tan spar with Sister Murong? Miss Shangguan's lips curved into a faint smile. Pitting this former crown princess against the current one in a life-or-death contest. She'd sit back and watch the show, what a cunning plan. Still, she did hand me an opportunity with that glance. With her slight frame? I'd fear it wouldn't be fair to win. Murongxian appraised me from head to toe, showing zero interest in engaging. Oh. Surrendering before the match even begins? I set down my teacup and offered Murongxian a gentle smile. Murongxian took this as a declaration of war. She snatched a guard's sword from nearby, pointing its tip at me. Then don't blame me for showing no mercy. I'll beat you until you're crying for your parents. I rose leisurely and borrowed a sword from a guard. I weighed it in my hand. Average. Barely serviceable. A slow smile curved my lips as blood long dormant began to boil. Who knew who'd end up on the ground begging for mercy, sobbing? Murongxian struck first, thrusting her long sword at me. I sidestepped to parry, deftly hooking her blade to deflect her attack. Murongxian attacked, I defended. After several exchanges, I realized her swordplay was flashy yet weak, fixated on form over substance. Her techniques lacked structure, more like sword dancing than actual combat. Is evasion all you know? Murong Xian sneered. I didn't retaliate, and her fierce assault forced me back step by step. I raised my hand, tracing a sword flourish. Oh. I'm afraid the future crown princess won't even be able to evade soon. In an instant, the tide turned. Unlike Murong Xian's flashy style, my swift speed and fierce sword intent caught her off guard. She couldn't even dodge my first strike, losing several strands of her dark hair to the slash. In just 3 moves, I knocked the sword from Murong Xian's hand, its tip now pointing straight at her throat. Murong Xian's face turned pale, her fingertips trembling. She looked at me with a hint of apprehension, seemingly unable to fathom how someone who appeared so delicate could be so formidable. My peripheral vision caught the crown prince. That final upward flick to disarm Murong Xian, I'd used the same move against the bandit leader. Sure enough, the crown prince stared at me blankly, his eyes filled with complex emotions. Where has the crown princess's fierceness gone? How could she fall to a mere maiden like me? I still held my sword, smiling radiantly. Murong Xian glared at me in fury. I was wounded in that battle with the bandits. Your victory over me is dishonorable. Then how about I let you use only one hand? A one-handed duel? My words sent Murong Xian into a rage. She picked up the sword from the ground, but before she could grip it tightly, I struck her hand with mine. The pale back of her hand instantly swelled and reddened. Xian! The crown prince cried urgently, leaping from his seat and rushing to Murong Xian's side, clasping her hand. You lost, so why did you strike her? The crown prince, heartbroken over her injury, turned to confront me. I looked utterly innocent. My hand slipped. Then, I let go of the sword, and it clattered to the floor with a sharp ring. Whispers began to ripple through the banquet hall. When these words reached Murong Xian's ears, her face flushed alternately crimson and ashen. Any clear-eyed observer could see Murong Xian was no match for me. I had defeated her fair and square. Yet the crown prince, blind to the truth, remained oblivious. The emperor praised my skill, declaring I was indeed worthy of a renowned general's daughter. With a grand gesture, he bestowed jewels and silver upon me. Murong Xian was so furious her teeth nearly ground to dust. After the palace banquet, suitors came to my home in such numbers they nearly wore down the threshold. When the crown prince rejected me, I became the laughingstock of the entire capital. Now they say I'm not only exceptionally talented but also quite skilled in martial arts, a model of both literary and martial prowess for the capital's women. My father turned them all away, fuming that they weren't worthy of me. During the autumn royal hunt, Her Majesty the Empress invited me to join. Mounted on a white steed, I rode beside Murong Xian, who held her head high, brimming with confidence for this hunt. I heard that after the palace banquet, Murong Xian practiced martial arts daily, never daring to slack off. It seemed she was desperate to regain her pride. As the hunt began, Murong Xian charged forward on her horse like an arrow released from its string. I followed leisurely behind, the crown prince slowly catching up to ride alongside me. Jiang Tan, on the day Mother and I went to pray, were you present at Mount Shangqing? After hesitating for a long while, the crown prince finally voiced his question. I was indeed at Mount Shangqing that day. The crown prince exhaled in relief. Then you must have witnessed Xian's skills that day and learned her techniques. It seemed the crown prince still couldn't forget the scene at the palace banquet where I had deflected Murong Xian's sword. If I were to say that the red-clad heroine was actually me, and Murong Xian merely impersonated me to claim the credit, would your highness believe me? At my bluntness, a flicker of panic crossed the crown prince's face before he snapped angrily, "Are you implying I mistook her for someone else?" I stared at him for a long moment. How had I never noticed before just how foolish he truly was? If your highness truly believed her to be the red-robed heroine, you wouldn't have asked this question today. Or could it be that your highness refuses to believe the one who saved you is this frail woman you've always looked down upon? This question struck the prince right in the heart. His body trembled, his lips quivered slightly, and his gaze involuntarily drifted toward Murong Xian in the distance. She still wore her crimson robes, galloping freely. Jiang Tan, cease slandering Xian's reputation, or I shall hold you accountable. With that, he dared not linger a moment longer, spurring his horse to chase after Murong Xian. I curved my lips, drew my bow taut as a full moon, and 3 arrows flew from the string. 1 arrow knocked Mu Rongshuan's arrow from her hand. 1 struck her intended prey. The 3rd arrow flew forward, embedding itself before the horse beneath Mu Rongshuan. The startled horse reared and swayed violently, sending Mu Rongshuan's face pale with fright. I picked up the rabbit from the grass and waved at the 2 of them. Thanks. Behind me came the Crown Prince's furious voice. Jiang Tan. Apologized to Xian. But no one paid him any mind. Lately, river pirates had proliferated in the Jiangnan region, committing repeated acts of piracy. The emperor was troubled. Someone submitted a memorial suggesting Murong Xian be sent to suppress the pirates. This would serve 2 purposes: first, to demonstrate her capabilities and win widespread acceptance of her position as crown princess; second, having already crushed mountain bandits 3 months prior, she possessed ample experience, minor river pirates would be no challenge. The emperor accepted this proposal and immediately dispatched Murong Xian to assist the 5th prince in subduing the pirates. The petitioner behind this suggestion was none other than my father. Father, you're so mean. Humph. If she wishes to bask in the glory of the crimson-robed heroine, she must also shoulder the responsibility. No matter how reluctant Murong Xian felt, she could only bury her reluctance deep within. Accepting the imperial decree, she set off for Jiangnan. Father arranged for me to join the escort team, and I secretly followed them to Jiangnan. On the 3rd day after arriving in Jiangnan, Murong Xian shut herself indoors all day. She didn't utter a single word about how to devise a plan to eliminate the river pirates. Publicly, she claimed to have a plan, but in reality, she holed up in her room poring over military manuals, racking her brain for solutions. Initially, everyone trusted her reputation as the crimson-robed heroine and had full confidence in her. But as the river pirates grew increasingly rampant and Murong Xian remained inactive, the surrounding common folk suffered terribly. On the 7th day, Murong Xian finally emerged from her room and opted for a direct assault. The pirates were expert swimmers, intimately familiar with the local terrain, while some of the soldiers dispatched from the capital couldn't even swim. As one might expect, the battle ended in a crushing defeat. Murong Xian led the assault, but despite her mediocre martial arts skills, she was ultimately captured by the pirates. They held her hostage to blackmail the imperial court. The reputation of the crimson-robed heroine was utterly ruined by her actions. Save me! Save me! Soaked to the bone and deathly pale, Murong Xian was bound tightly to the ship's mast by the pirates. A pirate held a sharp knife, its cold blade glinting as it traced Murong Xian's cheek. With a light flick, it sliced open a wound. Terrified, Murong Xian screamed, "You can't kill me. I'm the crown prince's consort." Hearing this, the pirate paused his actions, fixing her with an amused gaze. "Oh, the crown prince's consort? Well, it seems I've captured the right person after all. I'll have to negotiate properly then, wouldn't want to waste your noble status, wouldn't you agree?" Mong Xian dared not move, her usual arrogance and tyranny completely vanishing. She nodded cautiously. "Whatever you demand, the crown prince will grant it. Just spare me. How about 3 cities in exchange for your life?" The pirate's demand was outrageous. The 5th prince, the only one present with authority, hesitated to agree. "I agree. Just let Xian go." The crown prince, who had rushed to the scene, shouted urgently. Upon learning of Murong Xian's capture, the crown prince had been consumed by anxiety, spurring his horse at full gallop from the capital. "Are you mad?" The 5th prince exclaimed in shock. "Xian is the esteemed crown princess. I must save her." While they negotiated, I and the 10 elite soldiers father had given me infiltrated the pirates' ship. As the pirates gloated over the 2 princes fighting for her without regard for their dignity, I gave a signal. Drawing my bow, I shot an arrow that pierced the heart of the pirate holding Murongxian hostage. The counterattack began. The fifth prince quickly recovered and led his men to support me. Murongxian, bound to a pillar, screamed loudly, pleading for the crown prince's help. "Your Highness, save me." The crown prince rushed toward Murongxian, untangling her bonds. Her legs buckled, and she collapsed into his arms, her face streaked with tears, a sight that stirred pity in me. "Your Highness, Xian is in such pain." The crown prince removed his cloak and draped it over Murongxian, holding her tightly. Amidst the chaos of battle, they clung to each other tenderly. "Get lost! Stop getting in the way!" I kicked the bandit aside and snapped impatiently at them. The crown prince froze upon seeing me. Dressed entirely in red, my face unmasked, my swordplay and form mirrored that of the crimson-clad heroine from Shangqing Mountain. Murongxian was struck as if by lightning. She murmured softly, "It's you." The crown prince snapped out of his daze, opening his mouth as if to speak. Murongxian's expression shifted. She shifted her body slightly, causing her shoulder garment to slip down, revealing a gruesome scar. It was left from the battle at Mount Shangqing, where the red-clad heroine had shielded the crown prince with her own body, taking the blade's blow. Murongxian cried out in fresh pain, collapsing into the crown prince's arms. He snapped back to his senses, scooping her up and carrying her toward shore. The fifth prince and I worked together flawlessly, capturing the river pirates. He took prisoners alive to interrogate in the capital, while I broke ranks and returned to the capital ahead of the main force. Ugh, the force of my sword strike had aggravated an old wound. I carefully removed my garments to apply medicine to the scarred shoulder. News of Murongxian had already spread throughout the capital, with commoners questioning the authenticity of her identity. Hiding within the mansion, Murongxian dared not venture out. Clutching the crown prince's sleeve tightly, she recounted the events at Mount Shangqing over and over. "Your Highness, do you believe me?" After a moment's hesitation, the crown prince nodded and drew Murongxian into his embrace. My military achievements spread throughout the court, and the emperor asked what reward I desired. I replied that during this campaign, I had developed feelings for the fifth prince and wished to marry him. I requested the emperor grant our union. Whether by coincidence or not, my betrothal to the fifth prince coincided with the crown prince's wedding day. After the rewards were distributed, the emperor brought up the matter of Murongxian. His Majesty flew into a rage and ordered a thorough investigation. The crown prince, however, vouched for Murongxian with his life. Yet upon learning I was to marry the fifth prince, he came to the general's residence to see me that very night. "Jiang Tan, are you still sulking at me? Angry that I didn't marry you in the end, so you're marrying my fifth brother instead?" I slowly sipped my tea, nearly spitting it out in shock at his words. Is the crown prince jealous now? First he scorned me, deeming me unworthy of him. Now that I'm marrying another, he comes to dissuade me. Truly, he's exhausted every possible argument. His brows remained tightly furrowed, though he seemed utterly oblivious. I am advising you not to sacrifice your future happiness on a moment's impulse. I feigned confusion, speaking with genuine sincerity, but Xian treats me well. He never scorns my foolishness or weakness, always pausing to wait for me. I like Xian very much. Even I felt ashamed saying it, but seeing the crown prince's furious expression filled me with satisfaction. Sure enough, he flung his sleeve in rage, shameless. Suddenly, his gaze froze, fixated on my left shoulder. The wound there had started bleeding again, staining my clothes red. "Your left shoulder was wounded?" the crown prince asked in a low voice. "Yes, I took a sword for the blind man. It left me with a chronic ailment." I answered with a smile, deliberately emphasizing the words "the blind man." The crown prince left the general's residence, looking utterly lost. After he departed, fifth Prince Lucian emerged from behind the screen. I never knew my lady held such affection for me. Truly, it leaves your husband. I punched him. Stop your nonsense. Lu Xian rubbed his chest in feigned hurt, daring not to speak. After the battle against the river pirates, Lu Xian and I became conspirators. Now we're in the same boat. I helped him become the new crown prince. He ensures my Jiang family's safety. The current crown prince, Lu Zhixing, possessed neither virtue nor talent. Ignorant and incapable of discerning character, he relied solely on his status as the eldest legitimate son to maintain his position. The emperor would never trust him to inherit the throne. Furthermore, during the Water Bandit campaign, Lu Zhixing had easily abandoned 3 cities to protect Murongxian, earning the emperor's displeasure. Now, all that was needed was a pretext to legitimately depose the crown prince. I am more than willing to fan the flames, ensuring Lu Zhixing loses everything. The capital buzzed with excitement today as both the crown prince and the 5th prince held their wedding ceremonies. Half the city was adorned in crimson. Adorned in a phoenix crown and bridal robes, I ascended the wedding sedan chair. With a resounding cry of "Lift the sedan chair!" the procession set off in grand procession. We were to traverse the capital's main thoroughfare en route to the 5th prince's residence. The sedan chair, which had been moving steadily forward, suddenly halted. The surrounding citizens erupted into heated discussion. I quietly lifted the curtain to peer out. Directly ahead stood a figure clad in crimson robes, Lu Zhixing. A slow smile curved my lips. It seemed the deliberate opening I'd shown Lu Zhixing days prior had taken effect. Why is His Royal Highness the Crown Prince not waiting quietly in his own residence for his beautiful bride? Why must he block the 5th prince's wedding palanquin here on the main street? A woman carrying a vegetable basket asked the egg vendor beside her. Rumor has it Miss Jiang and His Royal Highness had a verbal betrothal. Probably unfinished business. Lu Zhixing halted the wedding procession and called out to the palanquin, "Jiang Tan, I now know the truth. I will not marry Murongxian." The crowd erupted in commotion at his words. Lu Zhixing's face darkened as he gritted out, "If you're willing, we can return to how things were. Today, I've come to marry you." Just then, another wedding palanquin arrived on the main street. Murongxian, seated within, heard Lu Zhixing's voice and abruptly lifted her red veil, leaning out of the palanquin. "Your Highness," she murmured, gazing at Lu Zhixing. Yet Lu Zhixing walked straight toward me, extending his hand before my palanquin. Murongxian deceived me. She was never the crimson-robed heroine. I lifted my red veil. The intricate, elaborate makeup momentarily stunned Lu Zhixing. He pressed his lips together and said, "Jiang Tan, I regret it. Will you be my wife? I will cherish and protect you." A sudden hand forcefully knocked Lu Zhixing's palm away, instead taking mine. Is my elder brother attempting to steal the bride? Lu Xian's tone was sharp as he shielded me behind him, blocking Lu Zhixing's view. Lu Zhixing lowered his voice, suppressing his rage. Jiang Tan was always meant to be my wife. Had Murongxian not deceived me, I would never have married her. The daughter of a lowly military officer is unworthy of being crown princess. Morning Xian, who had arrived late, froze upon hearing this. Unable to believe it, she lunged forward, grabbing the crown prince's hand and demanding, "Didn't you say you loved me for who I am? You said I was straightforward, living freely and boldly, so different from those pretentious noble ladies." Lu Zhixing flung her hands away, his face twisted with fury and disappointment. Had it not been for the prince's dignity, he likely would have struck Murongxian. "You're no different from those who schemed to enter the Eastern Palace and become crown princess. Your actions are utterly repulsive. I've thoroughly investigated everything. What more can you say?" Last night, the eve of the wedding, Lu Zhixing finally uncovered the truth Murongxian had desperately concealed. Murongxian was the daughter of a 7th-rank military officer. She had come to the capital to search for relatives. While passing through Shangqing Mountain, she happened to be spotted by Lu Zhixing, clad in a crimson robe. At that time, I had just eradicated all the mountain bandits and shielded myself from a sword strike. Exhausted, I fainted and was carried back to the mansion by my elite escort. Murongxian happened to be present on Mount Shangqing and witnessed the entire incident. With a twisted intent, she picked up the sword that had fallen to the ground and stabbed it into her own shoulder. After carefully staging the wound, and deliberately collapsed before Lu Zhixing. Lu Zhixing brought her back to the mansion and had her treated. When he thanked her for saving his life, Murongxian did not refuse but accepted the debt of gratitude. It was this falsely claimed debt that propelled her rise, becoming the savior of both the crown prince and the empress, earning the people's praise, and ultimately ascending to the position of crown princess. I was bewitched back then, but my affection for your highness was genuine. Murongxian played the part of a fragile, unrequited lover to perfection, still seeking sympathy even now. Stop pretending. I won't believe you anymore. Murongxian's face twisted in agony, yet she stubbornly held her composure despite her deception being exposed. The crown prince turned to me, his eyes brimming with affection. He opened his mouth to speak, but I raised my hand and struck him across the face. Have you forgotten your place? My gaze swept across the main street, where citizens in alleys and lanes pointed fingers and whispered in hushed tones. Has your highness considered the consequences of this action? Lu Zhixing followed my gaze and shuddered. Consumed by rage and overwhelmed by regret, he'd completely forgotten who he was and whose honor he represented. Your highness, you should hasten to bring Miss Murongxian into the mansion. Do not delay the auspicious hour. I lowered my red veil and playfully nudged Lu Ziyan, signaling him to hurry back. Why such haste? Return to the mansion first. I shall follow shortly. Lu Ziyan arched an eyebrow, pressing a kiss to my forehead through the red veil. I obey my wife's command. The bridal sedan chair set off again, bypassing Lu Zhixing and heading toward the fifth prince's residence. On the second day after the wedding, when Lu Ziyan and I entered the palace hand in hand to pay our respects to the emperor and empress, His Majesty was in a furious rage in the imperial study. Get out! Get out of here! The sound of memorials and teacups crashing to the floor echoed. Lu Zhixing scrambled out of the study. Spotting me, he started to approach, but then noticed Lu Ziyan beside me. He gave a bitter smile and turned away. The empress followed closely behind. No need for greetings. Return to your quarters. His Majesty is in a poor mood. Her face creased with worry as she rubbed her temples. I wrapped my arm around hers and pouted. Because of His Highness the Crown Prince? The Empress nodded. They were only wed yesterday, yet today he demands the Crown Princess be deposed. Your father was already furious over yesterday's humiliation of intercepting the wedding palanquin, and this only adds fuel to the fire. The Empress sighed, her gaze turning to Lu Ziyan with a complex mix of emotions. I had warned him against this course of action, but he was stubborn and refused to listen. He has forfeited his right to the position of Crown Prince. His performance in the battle against the river pirates earned the Emperor's high praise. Now that you two are husband and wife, you must be extremely cautious in your words and actions. Countless eyes are watching you both. These were the Empress's words of guidance and caution. Lu Ziyan and I exchanged a glance before thanking Her Majesty. Ziyan, do come visit me in the palace more often. The Empress's voice carried a hint of loneliness as she spoke. Mother still has a place for me in her heart, Lu Ziyan murmured as he watched her recede into the distance. Both he and Lu Zhixing were the Empress's sons, yet Lu Zhixing was the spotlighted legitimate heir, while Ziyan's difficult birth had nearly cost his mother her life. For years, Ziyan had carried this guilt, never daring to draw near the Empress, only silently guarding her from behind. After noon, the edict deposing the Crown Prince and his consort arrived. The other princes grew restless, their eyes fixed greedily on the throne. I rushed to the palace immediately to confess to the Emperor and expose Murongxian's lies. Murongxian was riddled with suspicions. I scarcely needed to present evidence, the Emperor was already intent on arresting her for her crimes. When arrested, Murongxian was packing her belongings, preparing to flee. Even as she was led to prison, she proclaimed her innocence, insisting she was falsely accused. Alas, she could not endure the torture of the dungeon. She confessed everything in full detail. The crime of deceiving the sovereign is punishable by death. Murong Xian's life had reached its end. As the emperor pronounced her sentence, I was in the imperial study nibbling pastries and sipping tea. You knew she was an impostor, why did you not inform me? Facing the emperor's gaze, sharp as a blade, I shrank back in fear. Though she was a fraud, I could not prove I was the genuine heir. After all, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince vouched for her, binding himself to marry her. The emperor understood I was feigning ignorance, and that his beloved Empress Dowager had aided me. Finally, he sighed and laughed helplessly. You truly refuse to suffer any loss. You've inherited your father's stubborn nature. Murong Xian saw me one last time before her death. Her hair was disheveled, her body covered in wounds. The moment she saw me, she knelt and kowtowed in apology. Miss Jiang, I was wrong. I shouldn't have been so foolish as to steal your identity. Please forgive me. Even at death's door, Murong Xian refused to give up, hoping to use my hand to regain her fortune. But I've always been unforgiving. What are you talking about, Miss Murong? I don't understand. I suppose the torture has driven her mad, making her talk nonsense. Seeing my refusal to help, Murong Xian lost all restraint and began cursing wildly. She wept and laughed like a madwoman. I felt not a shred of pity for her. Had she not lost her mind and taken that fateful step, she'd still be an ordinary girl from a humble family. She might not have achieved great wealth and status, but she certainly wouldn't have faced death. But she not only took that wrong step, she refused to accept it, greedily demanding more. That's how she stumbled deeper into the abyss. I returned to the mansion in high spirits. Lu Zhixing knelt before the gate, pounding on the door with each strike. I wish to see Jiang Tan. I implore you, fifth brother, to grant me this favor. I approached him, looking down at him from above. Lu Zhixing, why do you persist in this? After becoming the deposed crown prince, Lu Zhixing had lost his former glory, looking like a stray dog. His face was ashen, devoid of any vitality. Jiang Tan, am I not utterly useless? Mistaking my savior, losing my position as crown prince. Perhaps you are right. I knew Murong Xian was deceiving me, but I couldn't believe the red-robed heroine was you, the very person I once looked down upon and cast aside. That early spring day in March, clad in crimson, you single-handedly defeated bandits with sword and resolve to save me. Your image was already etched in my heart. I adored the red-robed heroine, yet she turned out to be you. Lu Zhixing recalled those days. If it had been a dream, he would have gladly remained lost within it, never wanting to wake. At this point, Lu Zhixing reminded me. You still owe me a life. Lu Zhixing pointed to his own chest and asked me, shall I repay it to you? No need. Just stay as far away from me as possible. Vanish from my sight forever. My demand was simple, yet for Lu Zhixing, it was torture. Lu Zhixing lowered his head, still kneeling on the ground, dejected and listless. Lu Zhixing, the truth is, you never loved me. You loved that fearless, dashing red-clad heroine. The red-clad heroine in his heart wasn't me, wasn't Murong Xian, wasn't anyone, just that fleeting flutter of the heart. Lu Zhixing blinked in confusion. I stepped into the mansion and shut the door behind me. A single door separated us into two worlds. Lu Zian saw me return and eagerly came forward, asking after my well-being. My dear, are you thirsty? Hungry? My mind churned. When we first allied, we agreed to pursue our own ends and part ways. Yet his current demeanor suggested no intention of parting ways. I cleared my throat. Lu Zian, we are merely allies. Do not overstep your bounds. Lu Zian pressed forward shamelessly, arms crossed over his chest, grinning at me. My lady, Why not aid me in ascending the throne? I'll crown you empress and ensure your Jiang clan's prosperity for 100 generations. What say you? And if you bear me an heir to the throne, your Jiang lineage shall flourish for all eternity. I knew Lu Xian wasn't as gentle and agreeable as he appeared, but I hadn't expected him to be this shameless. I reiterated once more, Lu Xian, I won't be swayed. Put away your tricks. I only wish to protect the Jiang family. Once I've helped Lu Xian ascend the throne, I'll leave the palace and roam the world freely. I'll become my own crimson-clad heroine, rather than spend my life confined within these walls, vying for favor. The people may not need a queen trapped in the palace, but they need a heroine who fights for the weak, upholds justice, and strikes down the powerful. The end.